Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Burbank Police Commission meeting for March 18, 2026. I would like to call this meeting to order and begin with roll call.
Commissioner Chapman?
Here.
Commissioner Coombs?
Present.
Commissioner Elman?
Here.
Commissioner Hartunian?
Here.
Chair Hakobian?
Present.
Commissioner McKenna?
Present.
Commissioner Wenzel?
Present.
Thank you, everyone. And now we can move on to the flag salute. And Paul, can you lead us in the flag salute?
Join me, as Thomas Paine said, these are the times that tried men's souls to come together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I want to announce the public comment period will begin shortly. From community members here in person, please complete a speaker's card, yellow or white, and hand it to staff. In-person speakers will speak first and have up to 3 minutes. For those wishing to phone in, please call 818-238-3335. Callers will be placed in the queue and will speak after all in-person comments have been received. And now we're going to move on to commission announcements and reporting out by commissioners and ad hoc subcommittees. And I will start with James.
Nothing to report.
No, nothing to report.
I have nothing to report.
Nothing to report also.
I just want to thank the Burbank Police Foundation for putting on another wonderful fundraiser for the Matthew Pavelka Scholarship, the bocce ball tournament. Thank Councilmember Rosati and Vice Mayor Mullins for being there and participating. It was a special honor to have Matthew's mom there this year. It's a very special day. Thank you very much.
Nothing to report.
Thank you, everyone. Oh, Michael.
I do have something to report.
Okay.
I did take a 2-hour course with Nicole on oversight without DOJ, and very interesting.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, everyone. So a couple of things I want to report. First, commending a police officer I got to interact with about 2 to 3 weeks ago. On February 28th at 9 p.m., my family was at the Burbank Cultural Market, and I observed a young girl selling items to strangers around 9 p.m., apparently unsupervised and placed in situations that raised serious safety concerns and possible potential child exploitation concerns. And so I reported to the on-site security and got a chance to talk to the watch commander through the BPD non-emergency phone line. And then an officer by the name of Pasha Kanalu, Chief, I hope I pronounced that right, responded promptly, identified the individual as responsible for multiple children who were being directed to approach strangers and sell items, and handled the situation calmly and professionally, making it clear this conduct is not acceptable in our community. I just want to commend Officer Kanalu for his professionalism, composure, and effective response. I appreciate the department's continued commitment to keeping our community safe. And finally, one thing I'm super proud of, the Drive Right Say Less campaign has led to the development of SB 1198, the Safer Driving Act, introduced by Senator Caroline Menjivar. I'm sure some of you may have seen an email about it. The bill focuses on strengthening accountability for reckless driving by creating a clearer enforcement structure, increasing consequences for repeat offenders, requiring proof in unauthorized vehicle claims, and ensuring costs are not passed on to taxpayers. I'll be flying out to Sacramento on Monday and provide a testimony before the Senate Public Safety Committee in support of this bill. I also want to thank NARBE for joining me on this journey about 4 to 5 months ago, and the work was done purely as private citizens and not in any official capacity. And it's just a testament to this community and what we were able to accomplish all together. And that's all I have to report. So moving on to item D, which is public comments. I would like to see, do you have anyone? No? Any cards? Do we have anyone on the phone?
No calls pending.
Okay. With no callers and no one in person, I would like to close the public comment period and move on to item E, commission responses to public. There's no one here. Sorry. And then finally, item F, approval of minutes from the February 18, 2026 meeting. A motion to Paul motions to approve.
I'll second.
James seconds. And can we take a vote?
Commissioner Chapman?
Yes.
Commissioner Coombs?
Yes.
Commissioner Elman?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartunian?
Yes.
Chair Hacobian,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenna,
Yes.
Commissioner Wenzel.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. So now we're going to move into item G, items of business. The first item is discussion and recommendations on the scope of work for an oversight monitor in anticipation of the city's attorney's RFP process. So I want to open this conversation up to the Police Commission to talk about the specific topic. And James, I know that you were initially the person that brought this topic up, so I'd love to start with you.
Sure. I have two specific recommendations to make to this, and I'm looking specifically at the OIR contract. So there's the documents that were given to us. One of them is the staff report, and I believe the OIR contract was also attached to that, and we were reviewing that previously. Do you want to take them individually, or do you want to take them as a whole, as a package?
I think what we can do is just, I guess we can talk about it individually, and then we
Okay.
can kind of merge the ideas together.
Sure.
Does that work?
Sure. So I was specifically looking at items F and G, and I'll start, and we can focus on item F. Item F, it's in situations where particular matter of high significance to the city as requested by the city's designated official, the consultant shall present its findings in a separate briefing from the annual report. I'd like to recommend that the language that we would consider language to the effect of and may include the police commission in item F. The goal is to promote transparency wherever possible and appropriate without compromising attorney-client privilege. I don't see this being exercised regularly, but it would create an option to allow for more transparency in the process.
I'm sorry, can we clarify which document that Commissioner Coombs is referring to?
Sure.
It's not the scope that was provided tonight.
Well, there's a scope document, but there was a longer document, which I believe, didn't we receive copies of the actual OIR contract as well?
You may have, but
Okay.
tonight we're talking about the scope of the RFP,
Okay.
which is what this document is right
Gotcha.
here.
Okay.
The one that says scope of services, independent monitor responsibilities.
Okay, let me take a look at that document.
In the proposal.
Go ahead.
In the proposal under G, let's see, which is section 2G.
Okay.
Well, let's see, it's on page 6 in the proposal that we saw
So-
from 2021. It mentions the same information.
So one thing I want to make sure that we're really clear about is the commissioners here tonight, we're talking about the scope of scope of services, right? We're not actually talking about the RFP itself because you guys don't actually have a role in the RFP. We're not going to talk about the
Gotcha.
RFP process. So if Commissioner Coombs, there's something there, but you think in that particular document that you're looking at, that you feel should be added to the scope of services
Okay.
that we have in front of us tonight, let's talk about it in that framework, because right now, I don't know that what you just referenced is on the independent
Okay.
monitor responsibilities as it is stated in the RFP. But this is what is proposed to go out in the RFP, the document that you have here. So one way we can do this is, again, you can state what you would think should be included as a new item, and then we can put it into the current scope for consideration and discussion amongst the commissioners as a
Okay.
recommendation.
Give me a moment. Let's move on to someone else. I want to make sure I'm looking at the right document for this because I was looking at a number of documents in preparation for tonight.
Did everyone receive the document, Gina? Okay.
Which one is it? Is this the scope of service?
Yes. So
It
for
would
members
be-
of the public,
This is
yes,
the
the
one that she's
document in front
talking
of you,
about.
again, it should
We
say
have to
Police
stick with
Commission
all of it.
discussion with the date of 3/18/26. It is titled Scope of Services, Independent Monitor Responsibilities. This is actually taken from the previous RFP, and the discussion, copies of this document are at the front or at the entrance for any member of the public who would also like to get a copy.
Great.
Okay, so Narbe?
Yeah, so I had a couple of suggestions. I guess I can go through them one at a time, and we can pause to discuss if anyone wants to. But in section 3, scope of services, in 3.1A, which lists the specific incidents that will prompt a review, I thought about kind of dividing the item number. It's currently item number 6, a random quarter of all use of force reviews. I thought it might be helpful to kind of divide that up between the more severe use of force incidents and review all of those, since they tend to be smaller percentage overall. So in going through the department's manual, they categorize those as the type 1 use of force. So I thought it'd be helpful to break those apart. So include all type 1 use of force reviews, and then only a random 1 out of 4 of all type 2 and type 3 use of force reviews. And I think OIR does a pretty good job of kind of capturing those when they happen. They tend to be rare, so these would be like officer-involved shootings that don't result in, gunfire necessarily hitting somebody, but like the higher level type reviews. They tend to capture a lot of those in their reviews. I thought it'd be good to kind of OIR has been doing that traditionally. I thought it'd be interesting to kind of capture that as a requirement going in. And then I thought about adding an additional item to kind of talk about the scope of things they would review. I'm just going to read it as I have it drafted, but obviously open to suggestions. The independent monitor shall review the use of surveillance technology by the department, including but not limited to public safety cameras, automated license plate readers, unmanned aircraft systems, marketplace data tracking tools, real-time information systems, and biometric recognition to prevent misuse and ensure privacy protection of the public. Those are the 2 suggestions I had.
I appreciate that. And so what we can do is, given his response, does anyone have any comments on what Narby just said?
I'd be in support of Narby's recommendation.
Michael?
I agree. With technology moving so quickly, it's best to have another set of eyes looking at what we're utilizing and how it's being used.
I also agree, because I believe there's no such thing as too many eyes on this, but I also want to comment on the fact that within about 6 to 8 weeks of any of these instances, this lieutenant has been doing a great job of putting out videos and complete documentation that demystifies it. So I do think that all the type 1s are brought to the public's attention in a timely manner, and that have them reviewed by an outside source would just be double checking, but there's nothing wrong with double checking.
Very briefly, I'm also for that. Part of that I would hope would include the sharing of data and how it's shared.
Yeah, and especially with some of the concerns that came up late last year, I thought this would be, again, the department does a good job of kind of trying to capture and being transparent on these issues. But I thought this would be a good kind of a check annually for whoever the independent monitor that's selected is to perform, and they'll definitely provide the public with a little bit of a added kind of assuage a lot of the concerns related to those technologies.
I think that's great, important, et cetera. Would some of this monitoring be done before such technology was perhaps bought, set up? I mean, how, not just monitoring something that we have and other uses, but monitoring technology before it's secured?
I think a lot of that, I mean, I'm sure I think the OIR, looking at the last couple of years, I think they do chime in on certain issues in advance, but I think most of it would probably be implementation level. But I think a lot of that would be dependent on, Gina can probably fill in, but whatever entities, want to bid for this, they might be able to provide a better idea of how they would be able to insert themselves. Because like for a lot of it, there might not be anything to discuss at the department during the review. Some of these purchases might happen with the city council and outside the scope of the department initially, and depending on where they are in that process. I think for the most part, there's a lot of that conversation that happens before we purchase a product. So having a check either way, I think would be helpful.
I agree.
Okay, so
So I see people looking at me. I'm thinking that there's an expectation I'm going to weigh in. So from my perspective, the oversight body is not an advisory body. You guys are an advisory body. So if there are things, for example, that the police chief wants to bring to you that he wants to solicit your advice on or your opinion on, that is something that he could do. He is not going to do that certainly all the time. He's not going to do that when it impacts operational needs of the department. That's his purview. The oversight body typically will not advise ahead of time. They're an oversight body, which means that they're looking after the fact at what you've done and then making suggestions about actions moving forward. So, but having said that, one of the things we're doing tonight is soliciting your advice. Ultimately, it is going to be the decision of the city attorney in consultation with the city manager that will make the decision on the scope of service for the oversight body. And then, of course, any RFP will then go to city council for their approval and budget, right, for the money that we need to get the contract in place. So I would say, have your discussion, make your recommendations without really necessarily, well, let me say it this way. I don't want to limit your discussion. I do not want to limit your opinions. I have been accused of doing that by people who are no longer here with us, and that is not my role, not my intent. So please have your discussion. Whatever you say tonight, these are things that I am going to then discuss with the city attorney. Ultimately, it will be his decision, as I said, with the city manager.
Thank you for the
Okay.
clarification.
Sure.
Thank you, Gina. I mean, based on what policy you have on.
I'm sorry, finish this, then next subject.
Oh, okay.
I want to-
Oh,
yeah.
Norbert, go ahead.
Sorry, Paul, I just want to add one thing, since, it is kind of open discussion. There are a number of commissions and city independent monitors or auditors, whatever they call them. A good example is Pasadena. Their scope was a little bit different, because in some of these cases, like here, it's, obviously driven by the city attorney and some needs they've identified. In some jurisdictions, it's, the commission has more of an oversight role, which, as we discussed last time, isn't necessarily our role. So I'm just gonna read out what it says in, for example, scope of work for the city of Pasadena. I don't think this would necessarily apply, but the term best practices maybe somewhere in that pipeline might be helpful. But the number one item in the scope of work for Pasadena's request for proposals was serving as a best practices advisor to the commission. That obviously would be a handful and would complicate this contract exponentially from what it is now. But having that best practices feedback, it seems like our current contractor OIR does that in the context of their annual meeting. But maybe there's some way to kind of incorporate that throughout the year. If there are, like, not necessarily even in our city, but let's say there's a hot topic issue that's coming up that they're identifying, or some trend they're seeing nationwide, things that could prompt them to refer to either the city council or to this commission as topics of like discussion, so we can get ahead of them if they aren't maybe things that we've encountered in our city yet. So that was another thought I had that I didn't include in my initial notes. But since we're kind of bouncing ideas around, that's one thing that I thought was interesting in various contracts with different auditors around California.
Thank you, Norbert. Paul?
First of all, understanding that this is city attorney's office contract, not ours. The only thing I would like to, is there are not many companies that do what OIRA does. And it's what's been communicated to us in the past is that when we do put out a request for proposal, we don't get an abundance of response. So I think if we need to magnify or accentuate the fact that it was put out, and that if OIR ends up being the only one or gets the contract again, to emphasize the fact that we've got a history with them, or they're the best, or whatever the case. But I think we need to, because of what James has been asking the last couple of months, I think we need to put an explanation point on why we're using them again. No judgment, just saying that it has to pass the test of appearance, and if we put a little spotlight on it, that would be great.
I agree. I've made my corrections with the current document, so I'm ready to present those when we're ready, but I think we're still focusing on Narbe's recommendations right now.
Well, we heard, it seemed like everybody commented on Norbert's recommendations. And what I'm thinking is, do we want to just wait until the end and just kind of merge these together? Or do we want to have the individual recommendations that we can have tallied up, and then we can provide that?
So my recommendation, so that way we can keep track of all of the recommendations that we're making, is that we probably handle them one at a time regarding the merits, as opposed to one package. So we're giving, like, my recommendation would be, this is the recommended change, or this is the recommended addition, and here is why. Maybe have some discussion on that, and then we would have to take a vote to determine whether we're making that recommendation.
Okay. So Norbert?
If there's no further discussion, I can make a motion. So
Make a motion.
should I do one motion or two motions for the two recommendations?
I'm going to recommend keeping them separate.
Okay. So first motion, I'll motion that in the scope of work which is currently under 3.1A, the following categories, I'd recommend removing the current item 6, which is, this is the motion to remove current item 6, which is a random 1 out of 4 of all uses of force reviews, and replacing that with an item that reads, all type 1 use of force reviews, and another item that reads, a random 1 out of 4 of all type 2 and type 3 use of force reviews.
Do I have a second? Michael seconds,
Second.
and we can go for a vote.
Oh, for clarification, you said 3.1A, and I'm in keeping with the document.
A6.
I'm seeing I'm seeing A6. I'm not seeing a
Yeah,
3.1, so
sorry,
I want to make sure we're.
In the previous RFP, it was
Right.
section 3, but it's
Yeah.
item A6, and so it would be.
So you're doing
adding
the same
two
thing I'm
additional
doing and having to translate it to the new one. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right, A6.
Just maybe the public needs a clarification of what type 1 means.
It's covered in the, I don't have the chapter, but it's covered in the use of force manual, so I don't remember the specifics. Huh? Yeah, it includes deadly force and a couple of other examples, and then type 2 includes certain things. And Chief can definitely correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm sure I'm wrong. But, it includes things like deployment of, certain less lethal, and, type 3 is, I remember it, I visualize it as like a fight where it's hands-on type use of force. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification. I think people watching don't necessarily have the paperwork at their hands. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have a motion and we have a second, and we can go for a vote.
Commissioner Chapman?
Yes.
Commissioner Coombs?
Yes.
Commissioner Elman?
Yes.
Chair Hacobian?
Yes,
Commissioner Kartunian?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenna?
Yes.
Commissioner Wenzel?
Yes.
wonderful. So do you want to go ahead and make that?
Sure. Second motion is to add, my recommendation is to add it between the current item E and item G. That's just where it flows, but it can really be anywhere. But to add an item that reads something like, the independent monitor shall review the use of surveillance technology by the department, including but not limited to public safety cameras, automated license plate readers, unmanned aircraft systems, marketplace data tracking tools, real-time information systems, and biometric recognition to prevent misuse and ensure privacy protection of the public.
Second.
McKenna, yeah.
Paul seconds, and we can go for a vote.
Commissioner Chapman?
Yes.
Commissioner Coombs?
Yes.
Commissioner Elman?
Yes.
Chair Hacobian?
Yes,
Commissioner Hartunian?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenna?
Yes.
Commissioner Wenzel?
Yes.
wonderful. Thank you, everyone. So Paul, I think you wanted to, did you want to make a recommendation as well?
My recommendation, and I'm going to ask you to help me clean it up a little bit, is that we emphasize the number of companies that we solicit for the RFP. That way, if we come back with the same, I don't think it necessarily needs to be a motion. I think we've made it clear. We just don't want to make it a pure favoritism.
Well, when the city puts it out for a proposal, it goes out to everybody. And each individual corporation makes a decision to apply or not to apply, but it's out to the world, basically.
No, I agree with that, and I guess my point was that I want to make sure the public was aware of that we are not using an inside organization because they've given us positive feedback in the past. So it's not, we're not hiring the home team, we're just hiring the best.
So I think we can make that clarification tonight for the public who's watching, as well as anyone in the audience, and those commissioners who may not have been here when the first initial RFP went out 5 years ago. We had actually used OIR prior to the RFP going out because they were brought in after everything happened with Portos, the excessive force that related to the Portos incident. When we went out for the RFP 5 years ago, using the scope that you see before you, we had one bid, and that was from OIR. There were no others. So it was literally a case of we select OIR or we just don't have it at all. Now, when we go out to an RFP, as Commissioner Elman mentioned, it does go out to everybody. It's a blind solicitation. So everybody puts in their proposal, and then we select based upon the criteria that is set forth in the RFP. So for members of the public, there is no home team advantage. Everybody gets equal opportunity to submit their proposal, and then the city will choose the best one, based upon the criteria that we are going to be setting forth, and perhaps with some of these adjustments from the conversation and the recommendations from the commission tonight. So we'll see. It's been 5 years. We're going out for an RFP specifically to address the concerns that Commissioner McKenna has raised, that after 5 years, that we're not in a rote system of using the same company. We want to go out, and maybe new companies have come up in that time to address these emerging issues related to police science, and we want to see. Maybe we will get more bids or more proposals when we go out. Hopefully, we do, so we can have a robust process. But it's true, we only had one. We only had one, and that was OIR, and that is who we went with.
Thank you, Gina. So since we're already
Yes.
moving, oh, you have a,
Could I
Go-
ask
no,
a
of
question?
course.
When you said there's only one, was it only one that responded? Or is there no other companies that do that type of work?
I couldn't say whether there are any other companies. Only one responded. I was in charge of the RFP 5 years ago. We put out the proposal. We got one proposal, and that was from OIR. I did get one additional call. I can't even recall the name of the company. They asked some questions, and ultimately, they never submitted anything, so I don't know anything about their criteria, whether they would have been able to do the job. Clearly, they did not have an interest because they did not submit anything.
If I can jump in as well, I just want to name, and this isn't to put anybody on the spot, but I realize that we're getting into, tonight we're focusing on making proposals about the scope of service to be included in the next RFP process. But I'm hearing a lot of talking about why people were selected and how it was put together the last time, which isn't necessarily what we're focusing on. I just want to name that that's not necessarily what we're supposed to be focusing on this evening.
I agree with you. Like I said, I think this is the city attorney's, we're not advising the city attorney's office, we're advising the police department.
Well,
Yeah.
we can advise the city attorney's office in the putting together of the scope of services and the RFP that's going out, because it's the contract is with the city attorney's office. It's for their service. So we've gotten the opportunity to make recommendations specifically on what should be included in that scope of service. So that I agree on, and we are. It's going into the why of the last circuit, the last iterations of this process 5 years ago and longer. That's really not what we're focusing on this evening. We're really focusing on what is the scope of service that we want to go forward with. What's the scope of service, that we want to recommend the city attorney's office go forward with in terms of oversight of the police department? It wasn't a motion, but
Well, it
No, you're
doesn't
just saying
matter
stick to
who
the
did the
agenda.
job before. You're putting out a new RFP. Whoever responds, responds.
Right.
That's it.
right.
thank you all. So staying within the scope of conversation, Michael, do you have any recommendations?
Not at the moment.
Ann?
No, I do not.
Mr. Chapman?
No.
So I took a strike on that first curveball, but I got myself straightened out now. So so what I'm going to recommend. So the recommendations I have are for items G and H, which were formerly F and G, to make sure so people can keep track. The language is similar. So let's go ahead and start with item G. I'll read through the whole thing, and then I added a sentence at the end. In situations where a particular matter is of high significance to the city and as requested by the city's designated official, the independent monitor shall present its findings in a separate briefing from the annual report. The language that I'm recommending be added is that the police commission may be included as deemed appropriate by the city manager, city attorney, and/or police chief or their representative. Or their representative as a demonstration of transparency. So the reason I'm recommending this language is this document is an opportunity. So one of the values that the city has, one of the values that the city attorneys has, is that they want to have oversight of the police department. We have an opportunity, and so and that's a value. In addition to a task, it's a value as well. I'm recommending that we add the value that there is a value and a role for the police commission in this process as well. It's not requiring that the police commission be involved, but I would like us to be transparent about that the police commission may be involved in these reviews as identified by those parties in item G.
Thank you, James. Open that up for discussion. Ann?
I'm curious, would this be an invitation from the police commission, not from the police commission, from the city attorney's office to the police commission? Or would the police commission under your thing be
Yeah.
able to request?
This would be a message to whoever the potential bidders are on this, or the potential folks that are submitting for this, to let them know that the city attorney's office is serious about transparency in the city, to the extent that the city attorney's office determines appropriate for whatever matter may come up. I'm probably throwing more words in there than I need to. But it's moving away from just keeping it to strict legal language and adding some specific value statements into the proposal, which would be a message to the potential bidders.
Right.
That the police commission, they may be engaged with the police commission on a more regular basis. May be engaged.
All right.
Okay.
I agree generally, but like one of the questions that I have, just because of the way the current scope of work is worded, I'm not sure if separate briefing means an actual meeting, or if it means a written product, or if it means a report. And so I would just, I agree in general,
Yeah.
but like, depending on what the intent of the city attorney is, I wouldn't want to box them into, now all of a sudden, every time they have a finding, it has to be a joint
Yeah,
meeting.
no,
So,
yeah. That's why I used the word may.
Right.
So it was the police commission may be included as deemed appropriate. So there's that leeway, but it gives the city attorney's office the opportunity. It also gives the city manager and the police chief or their designee the ability to bring the police commission in on matters if they deem it appropriate.
But without requiring like a formal meeting
No.
or, yeah, okay. It could just be like a referral of an issue.
Correct.
So they can be invited like as a thought partner, basically.
Yeah.
So all your language, and then one could add at the discretion of?
Well, that's where we.
Does that?
Yeah, that's the may part. The police
Okay.
commission may be included as deemed appropriate by all
Blah,
those
blah,
parties.
blah.
Yeah.
Got it. Perfect.
Anybody else?
I'll second it.
Oh, he hasn't made a motion.
Okay. I motion that
I
we.
thought that was the motion, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I should have done that more clearly. I'm motioning, do you need the full language, Sherry? Okay. Perfect. And I've got it for you as well in case you need it. So I'm motioning that we modify the scope of services document item G to include the language that I'd provided around transparency.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Paul seconds, and we can go to a vote.
Commissioner Chapman?
Yes.
Commissioner Coombs?
Yes.
Commissioner Elman?
Yes.
Chair Hacobian?
Yes.
Commissioner Tunian?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenna?
Yes.
Commissioner Wenzel?
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Any other recommendations from the?
I've got a
Oh, you
second
got a
one.
second?
Yep.
Okay.
And so this is in the spirit of what I just proposed. This is item H, which was formerly item G. So item H reads currently as the independent monitor shall be available as a resource for related issues on an as needed basis. The independent monitor shall be available for real-time review and guidance on significant cases per request of the city manager, city attorney, and/or police chief or their representative. My recommendation is that we add the statement, again, same statement, the police commission may be included as deemed appropriate by the city manager, city attorney, and/or police chief or their representative as a demonstration of transparency.
Open up for discussion.
So I think I need some clarification
Sure.
about that recommendation. How would the police commission be involved in that recommendation? So the way it currently reads is if the city manager, city attorney, or the police chief or representative identifies an issue that they would like to have some real-time review or guidance from the oversight body, they can make that request. How does the police commission fit into that scenario?
I won't go too far into the weeds on this, but part of the responsibility of the police commission is to review records and documents related to the department. Specifically, we have access to and should be reviewing all of the policies and procedures of the department. The independent monitor may find it valuable to consult with community members as independent representatives of the community in their review on these items. So the way I'm reading H is that the independent monitor may be called by the city manager, city attorney, and/or police chief or their representative And so the independent monitor is now going to get involved or take a look at a specific issue as requested by one of those entities. The independent monitor, especially if it's a new independent monitor that's not necessarily familiar with the city of Burbank, may be interested in consulting with the police commission as well to get additional insight as we are representatives of the community. And again, this may not be used at all, but I want to open the door to create an opportunity and to demonstrate the value of transparency.
Michael.
I have a question about logistics of it. Let's just say, yes, we do want to bring in the commission. Do we bring it in on a regular meeting? Is it a special meeting? How's it going to work?
Can I mention something here? I read the proposal from 5 years ago, and it seems like they already have a vehicle set up for that, for dispensing information, and it's one person that's designated by the city that has to go through. So I think that kind of eliminates any issues about them contacting us directly or trying to share with other people.
So so
I'm not clear about who's that one person.
addressing that with the city
It's
attorney.
designated by the city.
So addressing that with Gina, how would that work? Let's just say, how does everyone get that opportunity?
Well, but before I ask that quick, just one clarification, because I think I'm the way I'm understanding H is maybe the opposite of what your suggestion says. To me, I'm reading this as the city manager, the city attorney, the police chief, or the representative will give these referrals to the independent monitor. So the independent monitor there is just a receiving entity for these referrals. I don't know how we could scope the scope of work, because that directive would then be to the city manager, city attorney, and or police chief or their representative to bring us into the process. It wouldn't necessarily be the responsibility of the independent monitor. That's what I'm kind of, I'm not sure where we fit into that process.
So the way I see this playing out is I would see the independent monitor being called in for review and guidance from one of those entities that can make that request. And that's, again, going to be the city attorney, the city manager, and or the police chief or their representative. Once they do that, what may end up happening, and when I would argue that we've done this informally in some situations already, that the chief or the city manager or the city attorney may be interested in getting the consultation of the chair of the police commission or of the commission as a whole. We have a mechanism right now where the chief can add anything that they want to add to the agenda for the commission to address. There could be an issue coming up where the chief might be interested in, there's a conundrum. There's an issue that the chief has requested that the independent monitor take a closer look at, and the chief may make a recommendation. You might want to talk to the police commission about this as well. This just opens the door to allow that to happen. Right now, it's a closed door, and we're not demonstrating any level of transparency in our collaboration with OIR.
So if I can ask a question, how does that work specifically? Would they have to come to a police commission meeting so we can all provide our insight, or would this be like an individual person that would be designated for that position?
Can I offer some feedback or insight? So in my experience, this was a conversation that I was discussing with Chief Albanese, just trying to not only understand the role of the commission, but also OIR. And from Chief Albanese's perspective, what he said is there are oftentimes, usually policy associated, where he is looking for some insight from a different perspective from OIR, and it's more conversational, a phone call, than actually anything formal. It's informal guidance using their knowledge and experience throughout the region with other agencies as far as like, what are those best practices?
Yeah.
And then from there, usually it's of substance enough for it to give him more information to continue in whatever direction he was, or put it to bed.
Thank you, Chief. Gina?
The other thing I would add about item H is that if you look at the wording, that the independent monitor will be available for real-time review. That means things that are happening in the moment and guidance on significant cases. The whole purpose of this section is that the city has an expert resource where we can go and ask for guidance or ask for their opinion on things that are happening quickly, developing quickly. The very nature of the commission in your advisory capacity is contrary to what this section, I believe, is intended for. The fact is, if our independent, so if you did have an opportunity to review the old request for proposal, you will see in there that the independent monitor has access to everything. We do not shield them or try to cherry pick the information that they get, that they feel that they need to do their oversight. Frankly, if they wanted to come and solicit the police commission's opinion, they could do so without it being in the scope. They have access to anything and everything that they feel that they need to provide the oversight. And if they said, we want to speak with the police commission about whatever that they're looking at, the city is not going to say, no, you don't have access to the police commission. That's not going to happen because, as Commissioner Coombs talked about, the whole purpose of this is transparency in addition to the oversight. So, again, I don't want to tell you what you should or should not do. Please put forth whatever you want to. Personally, I don't think it's necessary because that situation is never going to come up where the independent monitor says, we want to talk to the police commission, and the city says, no, you can't.
So going back to my original proposal when I was talking about this, this is about demonstrating our values in the scope of work as well. So it may not come to fruition. There are other ways to do that, but it's a clear statement of values to whoever may be looking at bidding on this.
Can I have a suggestion? So the way I'm visualizing H, this is how I visualize it, because I think I've read this in previous OIR reports where, like, what's happened is, they're only looking at, say, like 1 out of every 3 of a certain type of case, but then a situation happens. There's like a excessive force case or some line of duty incident where they're asked, hey, could you look at this even though it's outside of that random selection? So that would happen in real time. They would report back. I think I totally agree with the transparency piece of it. I think what will be helpful is, instead of injecting us into that, the request of the city manager or the designee piece, afterwards, maybe add a line about, shall report back its findings either in the annual report as it's spelled out in item F or in a separate briefing as it's spelled out in item G as may be appropriate. So just have some sort of reporting mechanism so that it's, one, after the fact, we know that they reviewed it, and if it's necessary, that it's something that they brief outside of the scope of the annual report, they treat it as something like item G, where they shall present its findings in a separate briefing, and then we can incorporate some of the language that we all agreed on for that one, where we may be brought in that process.
Yeah, and the language from G and H, it's actually identical language that I included in both of them.
And I like that because then it's the transparency piece of
Yep.
it is that if something happens, then along with everybody else,
Yep.
then we know about it. We're brought in to discuss after the fact, but it doesn't get in the way of the real time kind of assessment. That they're
Right.
doing.
And again, is it an option? Yes. Are we locked in? Is it an obligation? No, it's not an obligation.
Okay, I like that.
So do you want to restate your recommendation?
No, I'm actually keeping it
The way it
just
is?
like it is. Yeah.
And so you make a motion for that?
Sure. I'll make a motion as read in early. Should I read the whole thing again for you guys or no?
I think so, because
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think
Okay.
I'm misunderstanding.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and read this. My motion is that we modify. Actually, I'll just go. My motion is that we modify item H to add the sentence at the end. The police commission may be included as deemed appropriate by the city manager, city attorney, and/or police chief or their representative as a demonstration of transparency.
Do I have a second? Michael, second. Do you have a question?
No, I'm still trying to think about how it would work, but please have your discussion and your vote.
I think it's already covered under the terminology "are their representative."
That would be the way. Actually, that's a good question. I'm reading that as or the police chief or their representative as one statement. So it would be it would be our chief or the chief's representative. Or are they talking about a representative of any of those categories?
The representative is any designee of the city manager, city
Right.
attorney, or the police chief.
Right.
So the way, if we didn't have that, it would be, it has to be Chief Quintero.
Okay,
It has to be
okay.
the city attorney, the city manager. But
Right.
there are often times when they will delegate their responsibilities down to
Right.
somebody else, to a subordinate.
Which actually makes a good point, because the members of the police commission would never be a designee, a staff designee of any of those city officials.
That is correct.
That's correct. So just to follow what Gina was saying, so logistically, how would that even work? Like, how do we know who's selected, how they're selected to, I don't know, would they represent the police commission? Would they come to a meeting and we would have that conversation with them?
So first, there's no obligation. I want to emphasize there is no obligation to act on this. This is
Sure.
just this is a value statement that we're including, and this would allow any of those categories, the city manager, the city attorney, and/or the police chief or their representative, to request that the independent monitor consult with the police commission.
Right, but
On a
when
matter.
you say police commission, I see that as a whole body. So would that be something that we would have a conversation here? or-
I would recommend it being the whole body. So that would be if an issue comes up that they want to address with the police commission, that we, because that way we can give our opinion or a perspective formally on record. I would actually get really concerned if there were independent conversations taking place and decisions being made based on those independent conversations without the body of the commission as a whole. I think that could actually get
Right,
dangerous.
so it would be just agendizing the item and then speaking on it?
Yes.
Okay.
That's how I see it working out.
I agree with it generally, but I think, like, let's say I'm independent monitor company X and I'm looking at this. It's not going to impact my bid. So you guys are the city, you do this however you want. I
Right.
understand it's a value statement.
Yep.
But it doesn't impact how I do my job. Like, you can bring me whatever you want. That's why I think it would be helpful in this to then require them, like, if this reporting happens and let's just say it is something maybe de minimis from the
Yeah.
perspective of the reporting party.
Right.
Then we have some vehicle where they can incorporate it into some of their back briefing and bring it back and report to us
Yeah.
what their findings were, what the concerns were. That way it's something that then they have to plan for. So like now, they're not only responding to this, the company would have to think, hey,
Yeah.
is this something that falls into category G, or this is a separate briefing for the annual report?
Right.
Or is this something that's so de minimis, or it's the impact doesn't necessarily need discussion, we can include it in the annual report. Then it requires them to actually take a step. like
Yeah,
towards doing that.
it wouldn't be the independent monitor that's making that decision. It's the city attorney, city manager, police chief, or their designee that would make the recommendation to get the police commission
Yeah, but I don't see
involved.
what business that has being a scope of work for the independent monitor.
Just included as a value statement. Yeah.
So, Commissioner Coombs, that's a phrase that you've used a couple times, and to demonstrate the value of the police commission.
The value of transparency. The value of transparency where appropriate.
So I want to be careful, though, to Commissioner Hartunian's statement that we're not injecting language in here that's not understandable to whoever's going to bid. And when sometimes we put in this, the language of transparency, the fact, frankly, I think the fact that we're doing it in the first place is a huge statement of the transparency that we want to exhibit,
Agreed.
right? And then having said that, if I am company X and I'm looking at it and I'm trying to figure out what does that mean, right? For me, practically, in putting in a bid, what do I have to say? How do I answer that? What does that add to what I'm going to offer as a service? So I would just caution that we're not putting in language, and ultimately, as I stated, it's going to be the city attorney in
Correct.
consultation with the city manager who's going to make the decision.
I agree.
But I would personally, when I draft contracts and what have you, I try to do it in a practical way that makes it clear and is understandable without extra stuff that make it then fuzzy.
Maybe we could clarify, this is not, anything that we discussed this evening is not a requirement that the city has to do, the attorney's
Correct.
office has to do. This is what we're suggesting as advice from our perspective.
That is correct. Personally, I have a lot of affection for this police commission, and so I don't want you to make suggestions that my boss might say, what is this, right? And so I want you guys to look good. I think you've made some excellent suggestions already. And so in the spirit of again, putting your best foot forward when I present all of these suggestions to my boss, the city attorney. I want to make sure that it makes sense and that it's something that he can seriously consider. I think you had
Okay,
another
Michael.
statement.
Well, I'm going to put on my private industry hat. If I'm made a bid on this and I got to make a presentation to this group, how are you going to compensate me?
It's very important. I mean-
Also, I think we're trying to add transparency to transparency. It's a lot of window dressing. Things have worked in the past, and, I'm a big believer in if it's not broken, don't fix it. But I just see this as a lot of symbolism, but very little substance.
Again, value statement.
I understand your concerns, but I agree with Mike. I think that we're making something that's pretty straightforward, complicated, and more complicated than necessary. Because I'm not going to try, I agree, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but we aren't correcting a problem, we're looking for a problem. So I don't necessarily think it's necessary.
If I can respond to that, what we're doing is we're helping put together the statement of work that's going to go out for bid. So I'm not looking at this from a perspective of fixing a problem. I'm looking at this from a perspective of refining what we're putting out is a request for the scope of work.
But even there, I mean, like I said, I think the word there or the word may, I mean, we're coming down to literally in some of your sentences, one word, that I think the city attorney's office has already framed it in a way that, I don't want to say protect themselves, that sounds defensive, but protects the city and answers our concerns. That's just my observation.
Okay, so any other comments on that? Okay, so, do you-
I mean, I agree with the value statement. Why don't we just have a value statement? Put this at the very front where it's independent monitor responsibilities, just have a sentence in there about how the role of the independent police monitor is to bring transparency to policing in Burbank in consultation with the city council, city attorney's office, police department, and the police commission as required. And have that just be the top thing where we all agree this is about transparency. Just have that be the very top thing, so there's no confusion. Anybody who reads this, they understand that the role is transparency.
I agree with that, and I think that I'm totally for what you said. I think that this, perhaps its placement in this, alphabetized list, kind of makes it injects something that might be questionable. So I would agree, but take it, put it closer to the top as a general statement, perhaps not even an alphabetized thing, just like,
And, me as, company X that's bidding, now I know, like, all my employee resumes, I move the transparency bullets up a little bit as opposed to the, the policing science bullets. It then forces them to kind of capture their proposal in, with leading with transparency as the front. So, they can bring more of that information to the city attorney's office when they're trying to review bids.
but are we assuming that the company doesn't already know that they need to be transparent?
Well, like I said, I definitely see the value of, like, the value statement. I definitely
Right.
see the value of the value
Yeah.
statement, so.
Yeah, and it's a demonstration of the city's transparency, not necessarily, not a demonstration of the independent, in the independent monitor's transparency, but of the city's.
So my question for you, Commissioner Coombs, is, do you feel that it is not transparent, that everything that we've been doing, OIR, that has not been transparent enough,
Right.
that you feel that this needs to be stated yet again? Because in the RFP, it does say it's for oversight, it's for transparency, it's for all those things. I think the fact that we're doing it and we're an agency, where not
Yeah.
many agencies do this, and add expense to the city,
Right.
also offers transparency. And so to, some of the other commissioners'
Yeah.
point, are we looking for a problem that doesn't exist? I guess I'm just not sure why you would want it in this section in this way,
Right.
because I feel like it is already very transparent, and frankly, as I said, I don't know how this is workable, particularly in the section that you're suggesting we put it in, because that
Yeah.
section is meant to make sure that whatever oversight board we go with is available for those real-time
Right.
emergency, significant incident consultations.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why that language and that section is there, so that they will be available for us and know that they have to be available for us when we need them in that immediate moment. Frankly, injecting police commission in the way you're suggesting it's the complete opposite. There's no way to practically do that while still addressing something that is happening urgently,
Right.
where the police chief, city attorney, city manager would want that kind of consultation. So I'm still trying to figure out how that would at all be workable unless it is something more like what Commissioner Hartunian's saying. It's a report out, as
Yeah.
opposed to putting the police commission in that process.
So when this conversation started about reviewing this document, there was some discussion about the history of the independent monitor and why the independent monitor was in place. You had made reference to the Portos incident.
Correct.
So not to put one of my colleagues on the spot with this, but one of the things that I've experienced. So if we're talking about the Portos incident, putting this in place, I think it's fair for me to talk about my experience on the commission over the last 5 years. And one of the major concerns that I heard as I transitioned into the commission over the last 5 years is real concern about what is the role of the police commission, and we've had a lot of discussion around that. One of the concerns that I've heard is does the police commission have any gravity when it comes to making recommendations to the city, making recommendations to the city council or the police department? So in part, over my 5-year trajectory with this is an opportunity to intentionally inject language about the role of the police commission and what the police commission could do to support the work of the independent monitor, the work of the city attorney, the work of the police department, the city manager in moving forward. That language is really limited right now, and we've spent a lot of time in this group talking about the municipal code. And looking at the definition and the language in the municipal code around the role of the police commission, we have an opportunity to expand that a little bit. And I'm trying to take advantage of expanding that in a transparent way.
See, over that period of time you've been here, we've had the discussions about the role of the police commission.
We have.
But the city charter has never changed.
Right. And I'm not.
The city
yeah.
charter always says we are an advisory group to the city council, and we work at the direction of the city council.
Correct.
That has never changed.
And I agree with Mr. Elman. You're saying just finding our role, but I disagree with you. We don't have to define a role. The role's been defined, and I think I've been a commissioner for over 20 years, on this commission for 4 years. Our roles are clearly defined, and we are advisory. I believe that we have the privilege of possibly being better informed than the average citizen and having the ear of the city council members. But our role is to observe and advise. Anything more than that, I think we're overstepping our bounds.
Fair. Okay if I respond?
Oh,
Can I just have?
Sure.
I agree with you. You're in the right direction, but I just don't think we have the tools right now to really make a change.
so,
Sorry, go ahead.
so one thing I want to say is just to, refocus the commission. Obviously, the role was, we were going to discuss the scope of work and give recommendations on what we feel was right for, the attorney to look at and possibly take into consideration. So what I would like to say, objectively looking at this, and as someone who's a citizen of the city who's volunteering to be here, I don't have the same level of expertise that Gina does and her department does. So I feel like if the language that they've selected makes sense for them, I'm going to have confidence in what they're doing, is because they have the credibility. I don't. And that's what I want to kind of put forth, because when it comes to transparency, I mean, whether the company they hire and whatever concerns that they would have, that they know that they're going to hire someone so they can be transparent and the city can be transparent with their findings, And I feel like adding an extra layer of a value statement. I don't know, A, logistically how it would work, and B, I say it's a nice thing to read. However, at the end of the day, it's like, is it going to be effective? Are they going to utilize it? Because I believe they can come anyway and just talk to the police commission about their findings, regardless of whether you have that statement or not, right? And when it comes to policy, I mean, our role in the commission is to look at policy. We can do that right now. We've done that, so we want to make sure that we know that, I mean, the next conversation we'll have pretty much outlines all that. We built a framework for that, for future commissioners and for ourselves. So I guess for me, it's my personal opinion is, I trust the people that have put these processes in place, and I feel like that the city attorney's recommendation, well, if she feels confused about the process, I mean, someone who has absolutely no experience, for me, I kind of have to.
Well, sorry, go ahead, Dan, yeah.
Okay. Yes, and yes. If you look at H, to me, the intent of that statement is to let the independent monitor know that, hey, you're going to have to be available as a resource for things that may come up at the discretion of the city manager, city attorney, and police chief. That's kind of it, However, and that's kind of like part of the job, right? But I do feel that perhaps there is room in here for some qualification about the intent, the purpose, the transparency of having this police commission. I think that somewhere that can be put in, but I'm not sure it comes under H. I'm not sure.
So I'm trying to find like practical solutions, because I agree with everything everyone has said. So again, like if we're going to put that in the scope of work, let's just go for it. Item I, individual city council members may contact the independent monitor. Let's have the police commission in consultation or with the approval of city council can refer matters to something like that, where we have a role in the referral in the context of what we're going to discuss next, which is within the advisory context of the city council, so that we have a role to refer things through the city council or at the direction of the city council. But, where it's not, just like language in the context of this real-time reporting, which,
Right. And I love where you're going with that, because at the end of the day, we work for, basically advise the city council, and we work at the direction of the city council. So if city council wants us to look at these certain things, I feel like OIR would probably have to go through them and say, hey, would it be okay if we discuss it? And we would receive direction from them.
Yeah, so like where it says
That would
independent
make
city
normal
council
sense.
members, comma, or the city council, or the police commission or whatever, the advisement, under advisement from the city council, from the police commission, have something where it injects us in that process where we can refer things for action.
Yeah, if I can respond to a couple things. I'm not making any recommendation to change the charter or the municipal code. I want to make sure that we're clear about that. There's no recommendation to do that. Specifically about I actually have a note about that, is I'm not making any recommendations to I, because any member of the police commission can already approach the commission liaison and the city council should the need arise. So that's already there, and that's built into what we're already doing. So I'm not concerned about that.
But they don't have to report to the OIR.
No,
Or the
no,
independent
no, I'm not touching I. It's just my recommendations for G, which we already voted on, and then H. So I'm going to offer a suggestion to the chair and everything to navigate this. I know people have feelings about this and everything. I've made the motion. There's been a second for the motion. We've opened it up for discussion. One way to resolve it and move forward is just to take a vote on it.
He's absolutely right. So can we take a vote on it?
Commissioner Chapman?
Yes.
Commissioner Coombs?
Yes.
Commissioner Elman?
No.
Chair Hakobian?
No.
Commissioner Hartunian?
No.
Commissioner McKenna?
No.
Commissioner Wenzel?
No.
Motion does not pass.
Motion doesn't pass. Okay, thank you, everyone. So any other recommendations before we move on to the next item? Michael?
Maybe I could use a little education here. What I'm thinking is, in our discussion here, all of these items fall under the benchmark of best practices and accepted police policies. And I'd like to just clarify, I'm not an attorney. If someone reads best practices, does that mean best practices as defined by the DOJ? or best practices defined by some other entity? And then the second part is, when we're talking about accepted police policies, wouldn't that really be police policies that are in effect at the time of the subject of the report?
I'm sorry, what's your actual question?
I'm sorry.
What was the actual
What's your question?
Okay. Best practices. Can we define that?
Best practices will be defined by the independent monitor that we hire in their expertise as a police oversight body. So I don't want to define what their definition of best practice is going to be. We hire the oversight body in their expertise, and they provide what they believe is their definition of best practice when they do all these things within the scope.
Wouldn't that be?
I'm
keeping with our
a little
policies?
confused. Chief, when someone discusses best practices from the lectern over here, what are they talking about?
I'll speak for myself as far as when I use the word best practices, especially when it relates to policy. I'm looking at it within the context of the profession. So, and more, even getting more granular, probably on the West Coast versus East Coast. Now, a lot of that is assumed within the profession. It's very general and broad, but if I'm looking at policy, I'm really looking at who's aligned or similar to, consistent with language in California.
I'm just wondering if there's, with Ms. O too, if there is this is the basis for all the items that are being reviewed, and we're putting it into a area that's kind of nebulous rather than it being a very specific list of items.
I disagree. I'm not sure what you feel is nebulous about the scope that's in front of you.
The items that the monitor is supposed to review, they have to stay within guidelines, and those guidelines are best practices. But we don't have it's not a specific definition of what best practice is.
Mr. Chapman, if I may clarify a little bit more, I think, and I'm not an attorney, obviously, and speaking for Ms. O, but best practices is very individual and specific to that person based on their experiences and taking everything into consideration, policy or otherwise. So my best practices associated within the profession, as far as what I'm trying to achieve within policy, may not be best practices for the St. Gabriel chief.
We want to do the goodest that we can, for me, in my opinion.
Based on what we are experiencing or what we know.
But we're asking someone to reply to questions that would fall under, would that be our chief's definition of what best practices are? Or would that be the Department of Justice best practices?
Wouldn't it best practices generically be the post?
So it's much more nuanced than that. Technically, all of you are right. So DOJ has established certain guidelines or practices associated with, say, a pursuit policy. Now, post, just like DOJ, establishes minimums. I have the ability to go either at a minimum or above. Normally, law enforcement agencies exceed the minimums. You try to put a certain guideline or framework together that is best aligned with your respective city and what you are seeing and dealing with. Pursuit policy is probably the best example. It varies across the region. You look at your smaller municipalities have a more open and liberal policy versus LAPD, it's very restrictive. And for LAPD, that's their best practice based on liability issues, based on personnel issues, a variety of factors. For us, the community expectation here may be from a philosophy of holding those accountable and ensuring that those that commit crimes within their respective city are held accountable. So we're going to be a little bit more free in my pursuit policy. So it's everything in totality of the circumstances to define best practices, if that helps.
Norbert.
Yeah, I would also say in prior OIR, prior reports that we received, this is the way this kind of plays out, is OIR will make a recommendation based on best practices that they identify and they specify in the context of the issue that they're addressing. And that'll go, for example, to the department or to the city, and the city may agree or disagree with those best practices. And the city may say, well, no, we have better practices. And sometimes OIR will say, we've identified that Burbank has better practices than we've seen in other places, and so we have no recommendation to make on this issue, and they'll just highlight that issue. I think it's very situation and fact dependent. I don't think like the way it's spelled out here necessarily means they're going to follow criteria. It means they're going to present based on their expertise, their training, and their knowledge, and then it's up to the community and the department to kind of take that advice on board and either run with it, or as has happened in a lot of these OI reports, the department will say we disagree. What we're doing is better, and they'll state why, and those discussions will happen after the report is filed.
One very specific, the very first OIR that I sat in, one of the things that they talked about was whether or not an officer should be able to watch his body cam video before he writes his statement, his or her statement. Their recommendation was no, and our chief disagreed with it. I agreed with our chief's logic on that. I think that we should have every opportunity in the world to write your statement correctly. And if not showing it to me is kind of like playing I gotcha. I spoke to our OIR about it a year later when they were here, and I asked him the general consensus, and he said across the United States, it's straight down the middle. So the fact that we had an opposing views was consistent with throughout the country, as the chief's pointing out. And the point of view from the chief, that's his responsibility. He's the man in charge. He makes those decisions. So I agree with it. I thought it was great that not everything that they said, our department got in lockstep and said we're going to do that. There is a degree of judgment in this job, in this position, and I think we're very fortunate that we have leadership that uses that judgment.
Thank you, Paul.
So, Mr. Chair, what I think Commissioner Chapman wants is for either me or the chief or whatever independent body that we end up with to define best practice as one specific thing. For example, Department of Justice recommendations are always best practice. And what you're hearing from everybody, and what I believe to be true, is that the term is subjective in its nature. It is best practice based upon that person's expertise, experience, training, education, whatever other things they're looking at, policies from neighboring cities, what have you. And even so, that may not be the best practice for the city of Burbank. And that's where the judgment and the independent judgment comes in. There is no one single best practice, and I can't sit here and say, oh, it is always the Department of Justice. They will always have the best practice for the city of Burbank, because it's not true. And so for your question, it's not possible to give you the answer that I think you are looking for. The answer is what everybody here collectively has discussed.
Yeah, and if I can comment as well, absolutely, I absolutely agree with that. I think it is subjective because the environment plays a critical role in what those best practices are. I mean, if anyone's been on a ride-along, Burbank PD versus LAPD, you're seeing a completely different, culture, environment, et cetera. So I absolutely agree with that.
So I was just going to offer, we'd had a previous conversation here about constitutional policing, and that might come into play right here. Constitutional policing is the bare minimum. The best practice would go beyond that. So I could be completely wrong in this, but the DOJ is probably focused on constitutional policing and what's constitutionally acceptable, whereas post Kalea, which we've had a conversation about, experience here, experience in career, NACOL would take things beyond what that basic minimum is. And so I'm looking at the actual phrase, and I want to bring this up. We've been focusing on best practices, but the language in there is accepted police policies and best practices, plural. So I just want to emphasize that there's, I think, Mike, it's capturing what you want to do, but I think in order to have a deeper conversation, I think talking about constitutional policing versus best practices might be helpful. Not tonight, but I think that might help with the concern that you're raising.
Since the investigation is based on the term best practices, maybe it would be worthwhile to determine whose best practices.
And that's actually a conversation that we've had. I apologize because I can't remember the name of the organization, but there's an organization that we basically have a subscription to for policy, and then we make we may adopt and then we make recommendations. Lexipol, thank you. So Lexipol is providing a standard for best practices across the country, and it's a subscription service. It's designed to stay on top of current legislative decisions that were made or whatnot, and then the department may choose to accept or not accept or go beyond what Lexipol is suggesting as well. So there is that floor, and there's a number of organizations that are involved in helping both create that floor and make recommendations of what goes above and beyond what the constitutional policing is. So that's there, and that's actually, our city has a subscription to that and is part of that system.
Michael, does that satisfy your answer? Go on,
Okay. And this kind of, along with the accepted police policies, if accepted police policies means those policies that were in effect at the time of the subject that they're auditing, that makes sense to me. But if you just say generally accepted police policies, that's another one that's like the best practices. It's
But
a little bit
one thing I
nebulous.
want to definitely have us focus on is we're here to just give recommendations on the scope of work. You know, those little nuances I think could be a bigger conversation because I don't think we have any specific structure around what those best practices are from anyone here. So I think that could be a conversation for another day, or it could be an independent conversation that you can have with the city attorney or the police chief, et cetera. That's just my personal recommendation because I feel like we're just going to have a very lengthy conversation about what each specific word means, and I don't feel like we're going to really accomplish anything.
I'll back off. But I do want to reaffirm my concerns in that it is the basis for the investigation of the items that we're asking the company to look at.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I understand. Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Chairman.
Paul?
Go into our experiences, talking about ride-alongs and things. One of the experiences that we've shared is the homeless count. And I going along with what the chief said, every municipality may handle that differently. Where I personally think, and you and I have done more than one together, the Burbank police are incredibly sensitive, incredibly caring, possibly because they have the ability and they have the time and the ability, but that's their definition of best practices. Another department may deal with it with an iron fist, and that's not for us to say, that's their experience. But I do think that that's an example of how best practices, I don't want to say are modified, but best practices are taking police practices and made to fit the circumstance of our city, of the personnel, of the situation. It's not black and white.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Paul. It seems like we have a good understanding of what that means. So just, without moving on, any other recommendations before we close this agenda item out?
I was going to suggest the best practices language, but.
All right, everyone.
I killed this thought.
Okay, great. Seems like we made some great recommendations. Thank you all for participating in this agenda item. Next, I'm going to go ahead and bring up agenda item number 2, discussion and recommendations on the updates on the agenda, support, and community engagement documents, which were introduced at February's meeting. So I'll kick it off because I know that I brought this to the commission. And if you guys do have a copy of the guide, and, some of us were, decided we were going to do some homework and we're going to bring some ideas with us. Does anyone have anything additional they would like to add to this framework or change on the framework?
I thought we were all pretty supportive of it when it was originally presented.
Okay,
I think it's
perfect.
pretty complete.
Perfect.
I think we made some recommendations at the
You did.
last meeting. Did we capture those?
Yeah, so I
Okay.
have them here. I wanted to see if there's any additional new ones that you guys were thinking about. So, so what we did last time is the suggestions that we added. So what we did was, under the agenda screening framework, under the charter alignment check, I should have put page numbers on this thing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, page 5. So instead of under policy, it said oversight, so we changed that to advisory. When it's under the charter alignment check, does this connect to policy? And it said oversight before, so we changed that to advisory. So we did that. And also, I believe that was it as far as like the actual framework goes. As far as the name for the framework, because I know we called it like a discussion guide, do we want to change that? And the title I came up with was a Police Commission Agenda Development Framework, or something along those lines where it feels like more of a guide instead of like a discussion guide? Because that was just designed for just the meeting itself. We want to call it like the Police Commission Agenda Framework?
I'm actually okay with the language as it is because it's not just development of the agenda, it's how we're proceeding with addressing the items on the agenda.
Okay. Okay. Let's keep it as is then. Okay, wonderful. Any other recommendations, insights, discussions about this framework? No? Okay. So can I get a, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to.
Oh, sorry, I
wait,
said
no, I
one
had a
suggestion. I think the only suggestion I had was just in terms of how it's structured, in addition to page numbers.
Yeah.
Like
Sorry.
some of the commission priorities may change to year.
Yeah.
So maybe just having this as an appendix, like the joint meeting city council suggestions, we make those necessarily tied to time and call that an appendix and not have this be a part. So that'll be like the recommendations for this year, but these might change based on that, or there may be additional things to
Yeah,
add to
so
this.
this will get
Moving
updated.
document.
Right.
So the last 2 pages will be a moving document that will change every single year. Okay, perfect. So do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve. Oh,
Okay, great. Motion to approve the, well, I named it this, so.
Yeah.
We're going to go with the original title. I think Paul has
our
everything.
agenda moving forward,
Oh,
procedures, process.
still want to read out the discussion support document? Okay.
With the amendment as stated by Commissioner Hartunian, right?
Yes. And now a second? Paul seconds. I'm going for a vote.
Commissioner Chapman?
Yes?
Commissioner Coons?
Yes.
Commissioner Elman?
Yes.
Chair Hacobian?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartunian?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenna?
Yes.
Commissioner Wenzel?
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. So now we're going to move on to item number 3, general announcements by Police Chief Quintero.
Coffee with the Cop will be April 2nd from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at Cafe Grano. One officer, Christian Maldonado, just graduated from the academy on March 5th. 2 recruits will be graduating from the LASD Academy on April 9th. We will be having another graduation for our Community Academy on April 9th. 28 graduates will be graduating from the Community Academy. And in the academy, we have 11 recruits, with 5 recruits starting the academy April 3rd. And the last thing that I'm really excited to tell you guys about is when we're looking at where we are right now, our staffing numbers, we are at 160. Over
How
160.
many years has it been since we've been 160?
I would have to default to Lieutenant Feckery that was here before that, but, when I came in, we were in the low 140s. I think it's fair to say. Yeah, low 140s. So thanks to Lieutenant Feckery, his team, and their just drive and commitment in working through, through them being creative and just hard work, outreach, social media, and other efforts. It's really been successful.
Thank you, sir. And I absolutely agree. I think that the social media is just incredible, how much information's out there. So Officer Feckety, thank you so much for that. Okay, so next we're going to move on to item H, introduction of agenda items for future meetings.
May I ask a question?
Sure, of course.
This is actually something you asked about before. Is it possible to get 15 minutes at the next community academy where the police commission can address the academy and tell people what we do? You'll be in that one, by the way, because you're the only one who hasn't. Just to introduce ourselves, I think the Police Foundation, I don't know if they already do that, but it's just another one of the entities that I think ought to be introduced. That was your recommendation a couple months ago.
You couldn't do it as an entire body unless we agendize it as a meeting, right? Because you're there.
I was thinking two of us would show up and just give a question, Q and R.
Yeah, as long as it's not a quorum of
Well,
you,
it's
not
not
a
four.
majority, you could do it, but you can't do it as an entire body.
If you thought that was appropriate, Chief, I think we can get two volunteers, I'm sure.
No, I'd actually like that, in the spirit of transparency, as far as communicating, absolutely, that was intentional.
Transparency.
Do you guys want to volunteer now?
Well, it's the next one, when's the next one start? I mean, next one hasn't even scheduled, has it? Yeah, so they're
Yeah.
graduating already, so.
Okay, great.
This is
Okay.
how best practices
So
get
we can wait.
established.
We can wait. Okay, great. So new agenda items. Any? Okay, Paul?
In April, we have the blue envelope program, which I think Ann's also going to have input on that, and you said, Chief said we're going to have some input from the department on what we've already do along those lines, and from the three, hopefully we can come up with something. You're looking at me like.
I'm looking at you as you were going to do the presentation
Yeah,
of
so
the
I was going to do
department.
I was going to do the presentation on the blue envelope specific program.
Correct.
But I thought that you had also said there was something already in place, and I wanted to make sure that
That was actually me that said that there was something already in place from a prior meeting that we had.
see, he always confuses me.
Sorry.
Thank you.
You look alike.
Very much so.
Okay, so, Mike, any new agenda items? Ann? Any agenda items for future meeting?
No, not that I can, oh, yeah. Community engagement, I know that was something that you had stated in your presentation, but I'm really interested in that overall. How do we get the community to either attend meetings, have a topic of the month, or setting up coffee chats? But that would be something that I think is inheritive to anything we're doing.
So are you agendizing that?
I would love to, but I think it would have to just be a discussion unless, like maybe agendize it and discuss it and then go out and find out how we can build upon that.
Okay, so what you would have to do is just say it as a form as an agenda item that you want to agendize for a future report, and then we can just take a vote on it.
I would like to agendize that we discuss methods and means for community engagement between the police commission and citizens
Do I
of
have a second
Burbank.
motion? Michael seconds.
More discussion.
Discussion?
Might be a good time to discuss maybe plans for Police and Fire Day, what we want to do.
Sure.
Is that a separate item, or are we?
No, that would be.
Add on,
add to it.
yeah.
So that would be part of the conversation.
That'll be the last meeting before Police and Fire Day, so it's great. It's also, it'll be the last meeting before Scouting America is having a bike rodeo, which I believe the police department is going to be at on April 18th. And we'll be providing bicycle helmets to anybody who shows up at that one.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second.
Did we say a month for that?
No, what month would you want? Next month?
Sure.
April?
Yeah,
Yeah, next one's in
April?
And that'll also be the month that we do so it's appropriate.
Okay.
Okay.
James?
So actually, we should vote, sorry. I've got another agenda.
Sure. Okay, great. So we have a motion, I believe Michael second, and then we're going to go for a vote.
Commissioner Chapman?
Yes.
Commissioner Coons?
Yes.
Commissioner Elman?
Yes.
Chair Hakobian?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartunian?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenna?
Yes.
Commissioner Wenzel?
Yes.
James, you had a,
Yeah, historically, in the month of April, we've had a review and discussion of the annual RIPA report, and I don't think that's on the agenda yet. And so I wanted to make a motion that we have a review and discussion of this last year's RIPA report that should be completed by this point.
okay. Do I have a second?
I'm sorry, is this for April or some future agenda when the police department has the report ready?
Oh, okay. I was making the assumption that April is usually when it was ready to go, and we've been reviewing it in April in the past. So, is that? I'm seeing a nod. I don't know which direction that nod's going.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have not heard it or seen it. Normally, I would get
okay.
to see it, but I
Okay.
will definitely check on it.
Okay.
Could you reword that?
I will
to say
reword that.
It is at the
I will-
earliest available?
I will reword it. I'd like to make a motion that we agendize a review and discussion of the most recent RIPA report with a date to be determined once the police department is able to complete and has that report ready to go. Report and presentation ready to go.
Darby seconds. We can go for a vote.
Commissioner Chapman?
Yes.
Commissioner Coons?
Yes.
Commissioner Elman?
Yes.
Chair Hacobian?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartunian?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenna?
Yes.
Commissioner Wenzel?
Yes.
Wonderful. So any other agenda items before I go? No? Okay. So I would like to agendize an update and discussion on Burbank Police Department's use of flock safety cameras in solving crimes and supporting citywide public safety goals. Do I have a second?
I can have some more information
Is that
first. Is
for
that
What's that?
could you say that again? I don't.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I can repeat that. Sometimes I say things too fast. So just an update and discussion on the Burbank Police Department's use of the flock safety cameras in solving crimes and supporting citywide public safety goals.
I'll second that.
Have a second?
Can we open that up for discussion?
Sure.
So, flock safety cameras are a hot topic right now.
Before you have a discussion, the discussion cannot be about flock. It is literally, do you want to have it on the agenda or not? Because if you start talking about the item, then we're in violation of the Brown
Absolutely.
Act,
Absolutely.
right?
Okay.
Well, this is a statement related to clarifying the agenda item itself.
Okay, but it has to be brief, brief, brief. It
Yes.
cannot be a discussion about the actual agenda item because the whole point of putting it on the agenda
Correct.
is so we can have the discussion.
Correct. Okay, I'll be brief and to the point. I think commissioners need to independently take responsibility to do research about flock cameras before we can have a meaningful discussion about flock cameras.
Perfect. Paul?
I agree, but I also think this is a great opportunity for what Ann said. This is one of those things that the community asks about, so we need to find a way to publicize this. I personally think there would be more people from the community here than were here for the military equipment presentation, because this is an issue. My only question was, is this for April or May? And
So I would agendize it for April, and it gives us an entire month to really do our research and to find our findings and bring our questions and,
I was going to ask the chief if he,
and if the chief
they
is
could get it done
obviously
by
okay
April.
with that.
We can get it done by April.
So I motion, Narby second. We can go for a vote?
Commissioner Chapman?
Yes.
Commissioner Coons?
Yes.
Commissioner Elman?
Yes.
Chair Hacobian?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartunian?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenna?
Yes.
Commissioner Wenzel?
Yes.
Motion passes. We'll have the agenda item for April. And since there's no other agenda items on the table, so I'm going to move to item I. Our next meeting is on April 15th, 2026 at 6 PM in the City Council chambers.
But pay your taxes first.
Yes, don't
And
come
pay
to
your
the-
taxes, yes, yes. And the meeting is adjourned.
I wrote a note right there.
Oh, that's for you.
I think the